Soul Doctor Show, the TV show to help you feel better about yourself, but also to criticize by denouncing socio-political facts from over the world. And now, our credo in 30 seconds. Soul Doctor Show believes in democracy and individual freedoms. We believe that all human beings are born free and equal and are totally identical in their essence, regardless of the color of their skin. What is most important in the human being is not his gender, but rather his heart. Same with religion. I therefore prefer a good, generous and compassionate atheist instead of a so-called Christian who goes to church every day but who remains racist, mean, xenophobic and above all, contemptuous. There you are, it all figured out, and now you know who we are. Getting out of depression is our theme of this third episode. Several factors can lead a person to depression: a difficult life course, painful events such as trauma resulting from threats or blackmail, bereavement, or genetics. The depressed person feels a very significant general suffering, which in the most extreme cases can lead to suicidal desires. This is a reason to stay watch for the signs of possible depression at home or in a loved one. But what exactly is depression and how can we get out of it? Let's go without further ado to the heart of our subject in this episode of Soul Doctor Show. To begin, let's get into the facts. Depression is a common mental disorder. Globally, an estimated 5% of adults suffer from depression. Depression affects women more than men. Depression can lead to suicide. There are effective treatments for mild, moderate, and severe depression. Globally, approximately 280 million people suffer from depression. This condition differs from the usual mood swings, and when it is recurrent and of moderate or severe intensity, depression can become a serious illness. It can cause great suffering and alter the professional, school, and the family life of the person affected. In the worst case, depression can lead to suicide. More than 700,000 people die by suicide each year. Suicide is the fourth leading cause of death among 15 to 29 years old. That's why I wanted to dedicate this third episode to my share of helping all those who regularly suffer from depression. Depression can lead to more stress and dysfunction and worsen the condition of the affected person. There are two kinds of depression we can experience. One that is caused by outside triggers and another that is an almost unknown source. The latter is transient and does not occur frequently. It is a bit like the soulless feeling and affects almost everyone at some point in life. I will talk about this second form of depression at the end of the development. But let's start with the most common form first, the one that has external causes. And the one with external causes is also divided into two. Temporary depression caused by an event, and recurrent and aggressive depression. It is the result of several events and recurring triggers. For example, people who are regularly victims of death threats, blackmail, and intimidation. For my part, I will devote myself more to this last form of depression, the one with which many people live and which is recurrent. To make things more flexible, I'm going to take 5 steps to overcoming depression. I don't claim to have the miracle recipe, but I believe I have something to help you, since I myself have experienced severe depression. I'm not talking to you about the theoretical things that I will have read somewhere. Otherwise, it will not make sense. Rather, I'm talking to you about what I myself had to experience and what I saw in others. My job is to speak as simply as possible in order to be understood by everyone. Because most often doctors and psychologists cannot get out of the shackles to put themselves in the place and at the level of the patient. How would it help you if I started talking to you about pure psychology? Are we in a college psychology auditorium? Obviously no. So, I talk to anyone who follows me, educated or not, refined or not. You will soon find the podcast of my story titled Moral Flagellation. Now, let's see the 5 steps that I propose to you in order to get out of depression. The first step is one of the most important because it requires an examination of conscience. It's about listening to yourself to spot the symptoms. I say the symptoms and not the causes of depression. The causes, we will see them a little later. There are obvious signs that can help you understand what is happening to you. That is, you are depressed. I still remember at the very beginning the moral flogging I experienced. Yes, I call it that, because I really experienced a moral flogging, and like any flogging, there are traces that remain. At the beginning of this depression, I did not understand at all what was happening to me. I knew that I was not well in my skin and that my moral was too low because of what I was going through. But only the reactions of my body and my mind were amazing. Here are the signs that can put you on the path to realizing that you are depressed. Let's go. permanent sadness. You feel sad, you feel that you are in low spirits, and you sometimes cry every day and ask yourself questions that most often boil down to why? Why only me? A loss of pleasure. Gradually, you no longer feel the desire to carry out the tasks that you are used to doing and those that you particularly like to perform. You even lose the urge to dream. The future becomes dark in your eyes. Intense and abnormal fatigue. In the morning, you wake up exhausted despite a full night's sleep, and you don't even want to wake up. You tell yourself that sleeping forever will be the best option. Self-devaluation. You feel that you are gradually losing confidence in yourself, in your values, that you are questioning your personality, that you feel useless. You even invite people or other people's lives. A negative vision of current life, but also of future projects. You begin to see everything in darkness around you, not perceiving any joy in the events of life, and you have the impression that nothing can fix it. You have lost the strength to fight for your plans. You want to give up. Concentration difficulties. You find it difficult to stay focused on a task, even the simplest one. Due to demotivation or disgust, you no longer feel enough interest to be able to stay focused and remember what you are doing or what we are telling you. You don't want anything. The urge to eat goes well. You have no appetite. You don't eat because you are hungry, but just because food becomes a consolation, a pastime. Since you don't want anything, you also lose your libido. Sex, much like food, becomes a way of taking refuge, a consolation, and the danger is becoming addicted and never getting out of it. And at least, dark thoughts, dark ideas that cross your mind, especially that you don't want company, you want to be left alone. It is also at this moment that you are clearly thinking of committing suicide. The idea that crosses your mind is that by doing it you will find peace. Oh, how hard it is to leave this thing. We feel bad about ourselves. We feel something that only we can understand. If you're going through these things, you're in the middle of a depression. You have to be very, very, very careful. The second step is to tell someone. I recognize that it is at this stage that many people miss the healing train. In my case, as you will understand by following moral flagellation, I've taken a long time to talk about it. I had kept these issues to myself. When you are in the middle of depression, whether it is the first or the second form, you have the impression that someone is preventing you from talking about your problem. Oh, very weird, very strange. It's not necessarily about finding a psychologist, just someone you trust and pouring it out. This is very important step in the personal management of depression. I had spent almost 4 years before opening my mouth and talking about it. So I had to spend for years of my life in one of the worst depressions. I must have been lucky. But a chance that many others have not had and some others will not necessarily have. You have to know who to confide in first, because it must be someone you trust, someone who believes in you and who can only want your good. I would like to help you get out of it without consulting a psychologist. But don't hold back if you feel the need to. However, the psychologist will not give you exactly what I'm giving you here. But if you can see him, at least to confide, that will be a very good thing. I remember when I had to open my mouth to tell my wife about the causes of my depression. The way she listened to me and her attitude towards what I was going through touched me deeply, and I very much regretted not having told her these things long before. Why had I decided to keep these things to myself? I was dying slowly when I had someone to lean on. I think today with certainty that my wife's attitude had greatly contributed to my not hurting myself, because I was not far from ending my life. Never keep such pain to yourself. You are not a problem safe. If you keep them, these problems will eventually kill you. I'm not in a spiritualism course, but I know that a soul who lives by suicide is imprisoned in the afterlife. So let's solve our problems on earth while we're still here. The third step is to discover the real causes of your depressive state. If you followed the first step in which I talked about detecting depression, you have surely heard me say that you cannot fight something that you don't know or don't understand. This is why, moreover, I have always recommended to any sick person close to me to seek to know the disease or the evil from which he or she suffers, and to seek to understand the disease, because it is by understanding the disease that we will be better equipped to fight it. Some people take antidepressants to deal with depression. This can help in the case of temporary depression, but not when it comes to recurrent and deep depression, because you will only fix the symptoms while the cause will remain intact and cause attacks and attacks. Why keep the evil in you? It is not something good for you to keep. You need to get rid of it as soon as possible to regain your well-being. Who, instead of removing a thorn, prefers to keep it and just avoid eating it? You will not solve your problem of deep depression with tablets, alcohol, let alone sex or drugs. Unless there is a temporary depression, a spleen or wave of soul, or a cause buried in our subconscious, generally the external causes of a deep depression are known to the person who suffers from it. Most often, a deep depression can be the consequence of badly managed mourning, a painful romantic separation not accepted by one of the spouse, a brutally interrupted marriage, a heavy loss in the field of work, a serious failure in life, a very badly experienced disappointment in love, a trauma resulting from a brutal event like accident, war, rape. All these circumstances deeply affect the soul and completely disarm us. Therefore, I will ask those who follow me and who would like to talk with me in depth to contact me via my Twitter account, Lino Soul Doctor. If you have noticed the symptom mentioned in the first step, then it is important to know what is causing this. And as soon as you have found it, you can move on to the next step, the thought, in order to better manage this. The fourth step is to confront the problems that are at the root of your depression. I noted some circumstances in the third step. These are the most common causes. This is why I will develop each of the circumstances mentioned in the third step, while hoping that it will bring you the much hoped for help. Human nature tends to run away from problems. When there are problems, we prefer to run away from them rather than confront them. We tell ourselves that by fleeing, we will avoid living what we are enduring. But the question is to know, what will you do if, while you are going to take refuge, you also experience the same thing? That's what happened to me. I had left my country to go to another country where I was not even known, where I could go and noticed, blend in with the crowd and start a new life. For some people it could work too, but in my case it was a big failure. I had found myself in an overly complicated situation. I experienced the same moral flagellation where no one knew me. It was really amazing. If I have no peace anywhere, then I say, better to die. What an existence. Yeah, it was difficult for me. In my case, as in all other cases, you will need a lot of courage to face your demon. It's sort of like tormenting a wound by washing it. I don't know if you've ever attended a dressing session. When we clean the wound, even before disinfecting it, we open it to see how far it extends, and this operation hurts so much that one wonders if it is not making it worse. It's the same with this procedure. You have to see the problems in the face. These are things that hurt you, and that you probably don't want to talk about, but you have to. Because if you don't talk about it, you will have a hard time seeing more clearly afterwards. I therefore propose here the crux of the problem, how to get out of depression. Each of the circumstances mentioned has its own solution, its own way of unraveling it. But for today, we will stop here. Our next episode will be dedicated to the outcome, the cure of depression. I would like to dedicate a whole episode to presenting the material that will be as abundant as this first part. Soul Doctor Show is a TV show that deals with themes related to everyday life. The show also makes socio-political criticism by defending freedoms to strengthen the practice of true democracy. This is a show that tackles serious themes of psychology and politics, but with a certain dose of humor. Here we are! Find Soul Doctor Show on YouTube, Soul Doctor Show TV, and on Twitter, Lino Soul Doctor. Hey, be well and own the world!